Hello and welcome to Martha's Stories. Before I begin, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if this story touches your heart. I still remember walking into TechVision Labs on that bright Monday morning, clutching my leather portfolio like it held the key to my entire future. Which, in a way, it did. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 33, and that morning I thought I had finally made it. 6 months after losing my job at a failing startup, drowning in student loans from my computer science degree, I'd landed what seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. Director of Innovation at TechVision Labs. The salary was twice what I'd made before. The office took up 3 floors of a glass tower in downtown Seattle, and most importantly, they loved my idea. My baby, my breakthrough. An AI-powered app called Care Connect that could revolutionize how families coordinate elderly care. I'd spent 2 years developing the prototype in my tiny apartment, surviving on ramen and hope. When David Crawford, TechVision's CEO, had seen my pitch at a tech conference, his eyes had lit up like I'd handed him a winning lottery ticket. 2 interviews later, here I was. The lobby was all marble and chrome, with a waterfall feature that probably cost more than my car. The receptionist, a perfectly polished woman named Tiffany, smiled warmly as she handed me my temporary badge. David himself came down to meet me, all 6 feet of California charm in an expensive suit. He was 38, with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having to worry about money. "Sarah, welcome to the family," he said, shaking my hand with both of his. "We're going to do incredible things together. Your Care Connect concept is exactly the kind of innovation we need. Come on, I'll show you to your office." We rode the elevator to the 20th floor. I tried not to gawk at the view. The whole city spread out below us, Puget Sound glittering in the distance. My office, when he showed it to me, had floor-to-ceiling windows. My name was already on the door. I'd never had my name on a door before. "Get settled," David said. "Orientation is at 10 in the main conference room. Oh, and Sarah? I know paperwork is boring, but we need you to sign your employment contracts today. Just standard stuff, NDA, intellectual property agreements, the usual. My assistant will bring them by. I'm so glad you're here." He left me alone in that beautiful office with its view of everything I'd ever wanted. I set down my bag and just stood there for a moment, trying to absorb it. This was real. This was happening. That's when I noticed the woman at the desk outside my office. She wasn't dressed like the other executives. She wore a plain, gray custodial uniform, wiping down the glass partition. But she was watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. She was maybe 60, with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her face seemed carved from old grief. I smiled at her. She didn't smile back. Instead, she glanced quickly down the hallway, then moved closer to my door. "Congratulations on the new position," she said quietly. Her voice had an odd urgency to it. "Thank you," I replied, feeling awkward. She pulled a spray bottle from her cart and started cleaning my doorframe, moving methodically. When she was directly in front of me, partially blocking the view from the hallway, she did something strange. Without looking at me, she reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a flash drive, small and black. In one quick motion, she shoved it into my blazer pocket. "Don't sign anything until you check the basement server room tonight," she whispered, her lips barely moving. "Code is 4792. The last girl who had your desk disappeared 6 months ago. Her name was Jessica Palmer. Look her up." Before I could respond, before I could even process what she'd said, she was moving away, pushing her cart down the hallway like nothing had happened. I stood frozen in my doorway, my hand instinctively going to the pocket where I could feel the hard shape of the flash drive. What the hell was that about? Some weird hazing ritual? A paranoid cleaning lady? But something about the fear in her eyes, the way she'd glanced around before speaking, that felt real. I didn't have time to think about it. David's assistant, a efficient woman named Claire, appeared with a stack of papers. "These are your employment contracts," she said brightly. "Just need your signature on the highlighted sections. 23 pages. I know, but it's all standard." I took the papers, my mind still on the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. "Can I take some time to read through these?" Claire's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Of course, but we do need them back by end of day. It's policy. "We can't officially start your work until the paperwork's complete." She left. I sat down at my new desk and stared at the contracts. 23 pages of dense legal text. I flipped through them. Employment terms, non-disclosure agreements, something called an intellectual property assignment that seemed to go on forever. The language was thick and convoluted. "This is just standard stuff," I told myself. "Every tech company has these." But my hand kept drifting to the pocket with the flash drive. "Don't sign anything." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of introductions. The development team, all young guys who looked at me with a mix of curiosity and assessment. The CFO, a stern woman in her 50s. Everyone was friendly, everyone was welcoming, but I kept thinking about what the woman had said. Jessica Palmer, the last girl who had your desk. During my lunch break, I pulled out my phone and searched the name, Jessica Palmer, Seattle. There were several hits, but one made my blood run cold. A news article from 7 months ago. Local tech worker, 29, missing. Family seeks information. The photo showed a smiling young woman with dark hair and bright eyes. She'd worked at TechVision Labs. She'd been reported missing by her sister after she stopped answering calls. Her apartment had been found neat and undisturbed, her car still in the parking garage. She'd simply vanished. Police said there were no signs of foul play. The case had gone cold. I stared at that photo for a long time, that smiling face, and I thought about the flash drive in my pocket. The day dragged on. I went through training sessions, learned the layout of the building, met what felt like 100 people, and I waited. When 6 o'clock came and the office started to empty, I told David I was staying late to review my contracts thoroughly. He seemed pleased by my diligence. "Take your time," he said. "We want you to feel completely comfortable. I'll be here late too, up on 23. Come find me if you have any questions." By 8 o'clock, the office was nearly empty. Just the occasional security guard making rounds, and the cleaning crews. I'd memorized the building layout. The basement was accessible by the service elevator. I waited until I saw the security guard pass my floor. Then I moved. My heart pounded as I took the service elevator down. The basement was dim, lit by fluorescent lights that hummed and flickered. Rows of server racks lined the walls, their LED lights blinking like distant stars. It smelled like dust and ozone. I found the door marked Archive Storage. There was a keypad lock, 4792. The lock clicked open. Inside was a small room lined with filing cabinets and a few old desktop computers. I pulled out the flash drive with trembling hands and plugged it into one of the computers. It booted up slowly. A single folder appeared on the screen. Innovation Archive. I clicked it open. My breath caught. Inside were dozens of subfolders, each labeled with a name and date. I clicked the first one. Michael Brennan, 2018. Inside were documents, patent applications filed by TechVision Labs, but they weren't written by TechVision. They were clearly personal projects, detailed specs, and code for a revolutionary blockchain security system. And there were emails. Michael Brennan asking why TechVision was filing patents on his work, David Crawford responding with legal threats. Michael Brennan's final email, desperate, saying he'd go to the press. And then a news article. Entrepreneur, 31, dies in apparent suicide. My hands were shaking as I opened the next folder. Amanda Torres, 2019. A machine learning algorithm for predicting crop yields. Her patents filed by TechVision. Her emails. Increasingly desperate. A police report about a suspicious car accident. Amanda Torres, deceased. 5 more folders, 5 more names, 5 more innovations stolen, 5 more people who'd ended up dead or disappeared when they'd tried to fight back. The last folder made me feel sick. Jessica Palmer, 2023. I opened it. Inside was everything. Her original pitch deck for a telehealth platform, TechVision's patent applications, filed 3 months after she joined, her emails threatening legal action, and then the missing persons report. But there was something else, a document I almost missed, buried in a subfolder, an internal memo, and it wasn't from David Crawford. It was from someone named Linda Crawford. Subject line, Problem Employees, Termination Protocol. I clicked it open and read words that made the room spin around me. Per our discussion, the following individuals represent intellectual property liability. Recommend immediate isolation and implementation of standard protocols. Note: all documentation must route through my office for proper handling. Remind legal that municipal records access allows us to scrub any problematic filings. Linda Crawford. I'd heard that name. She worked at City Hall. Deputy Director of Business Licensing and Records. She was David's mother, and she had the power to make documents disappear. I was photocopying everything with my phone camera when I heard footsteps in the basement. Multiple footsteps, coming closer. I yanked out the flash drive, shoved it in my bra, and looked around frantically. There was only one way out. I ran to the far corner of the room and squeezed behind a tall filing cabinet just as the door burst open. Through the narrow gap, I saw David Crawford, but he wasn't wearing his polished CEO smile anymore. He looked furious. "She was down here," he said to someone behind him. Security saw her on the camera. A woman's voice replied, older, authoritative. "Check everything. If she accessed those files, we have a problem." I held my breath, trying to make myself smaller. They were 10 feet away. David walked to the computer I'd been using. He looked at the screen, still showing the folder structure. His face went white, then red with rage. "She saw it," he said. "She saw everything." "Then we handle it," the woman's voice said calmly, same as the others. "Where is she now?" "Security's checking the upper floors. She can't have gone far." They left, their footsteps fading. I waited 5 minutes that felt like hours, then crept out from my hiding place. My whole body was shaking. I had to get out of this building. But I couldn't go to the main elevators. They'd be watching. I remembered seeing a fire exit during the building tour. I ran for it, my heels clicking too loudly on the concrete floor. I burst through the door and found myself in a concrete stairwell. Up, I had to go up, get to street level, get out. I was on the 3rd floor landing when I heard the door above me crash open, heavy footsteps coming down fast. I reversed direction, going back down, into the sub-basement levels. This was the parking garage. Maybe I could hide among the cars, wait until they gave up. I ran through the dimly lit garage, ducking between vehicles. Behind me I heard shouts. They'd seen me. I kept running, not even sure where I was going anymore, just away from the footsteps and the shouts. That's when I saw her. The woman in the gray uniform, standing next to a maintenance door. She waved urgently. I ran to her. She pulled open the door and pushed me through into a utility tunnel, then followed, slamming it behind us. "This way," she gasped, grabbing my arm. "Hurry!" We ran through a maze of tunnels, pipes running overhead, our footsteps echoing. Finally, she pushed through another door, and we emerged into an alley 3 blocks from the Tech Vision building. The cold Seattle air hit my face like a blessing. I doubled over, gasping for breath. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask. The woman looked at me with those eyes full of old grief. "My name is Margaret Palmer," she said quietly. "Jessica was my daughter." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "Your daughter, Jessica. Oh my God." "I knew something was wrong when she disappeared," Margaret said. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the pain underneath. She'd been scared. The last time I talked to her, said her company was stealing her work. I didn't understand then. After she vanished, the police said there was no evidence of anything wrong. But a mother knows, so I applied for a job there. Custodial work, invisible work, and I've been gathering evidence ever since. "The flash drive," I whispered. 6 years of documentation, everything I could find. But I can't expose them alone. I'm nobody. They'd just dismiss me as a crazy, grieving mother. But you're smart. You're credible. And now you've seen what's in that server room. "We need to go to the police," I said. Margaret's laugh was bitter. "With what?" "Linda Crawford has been deputy director for 15 years. She has connections in every department. She can make evidence disappear, make people disappear. No, we need something bigger, something public, somewhere she can't control the narrative." She pulled out her phone and showed me a calendar entry. 3 days from now, Seattle Tech Summit at the Convention Center. David Crawford is the keynote speaker. He's receiving the Innovation Leader Award. There will be hundreds of people there. Press, industry leaders. Live streaming, that's where we tell the truth. They're looking for me, I said. They know I saw the files. They're going to come after me. I know. You need to disappear for 3 days. I have a place. It's not much, but it's safe. I wanted to argue. I wanted to call the police, my lawyer, someone in authority. But then I thought about Jessica Palmer, smiling in that photo, Amanda Torres, Michael Brennan, 5 other people whose names I'd seen in those files. All dead. All silenced. Okay, I said, 3 days. But then we burn it all down. Margaret's safe house turned out to be a studio apartment in a rundown building in Tacoma, 40 minutes south of Seattle. It smelled like mothballs and regret. That first night, I couldn't sleep. Every car that passed, every footstep in the hallway made me jump. I'd taken photos of everything in that server room, but would it be enough? Could we really expose people with this much power? The next morning, Margaret brought me a burner phone and a laptop with a VPN. We spent hours organizing the evidence, creating a presentation that couldn't be denied or explained away. The patent theft, the internal memos, the suspicious deaths and disappearances. There's something else you need to know, Margaret said on the second day. She looked tired. We both did. Jessica wasn't the first person I lost to them. She opened her laptop and showed me another file. This one was older. My son, Thomas. He was an engineer at TechVision 12 years ago. He developed a revolutionary battery design. 6 months after he joined the company, he died in a house fire. They said it was an electrical fault. But Thomas was an electrical engineer. He would never make that kind of mistake. Oh my God, I whispered. Both your children. I didn't know then. Didn't make the connection until Jessica. Then I started digging into Thomas's death. Found the same pattern. His patents transferred to TechVision, his complaints ignored, and Linda Crawford's signature on all the paperwork. Her voice broke slightly. I've lost everything to these people. Everything. But if we can stop them, if we can make sure no one else loses their child the way I did, then maybe it means something. On the 3rd day, we finalized our plan. Margaret had contacts, other families who'd lost people to TechVision. They would be at the summit. They would stand with us. We had one shot at this. The Seattle Convention Center was packed when we arrived, security everywhere, but they were looking for corporate espionage, not 2 women with a flash drive. Margaret had gotten us press credentials through a friend at a tech blog. We looked legitimate. David Crawford looked even more polished than usual on that stage, his smile confident as he accepted his award. The auditorium held at least 500 people. Cameras everywhere, live streaming to thousands more online. Perfect. He began his keynote speech, talking about innovation, about fostering creativity, about TechVision's commitment to supporting new ideas. I felt sick listening to him. How many times had he given this exact speech while people who'd trusted him ended up dead? That's our cue, Margaret whispered. We stood up from our seats in the middle section and began walking toward the stage. A few people glanced at us curiously, but no one stopped us. We reached the steps leading up to the platform. David was mid-sentence when he saw us. His face went sheet white. I'm sorry to interrupt, I said loudly, my voice carrying in the sudden silence. But I think people need to hear the truth about TechVision Labs. Security started moving toward us, but we were already on the stage. David held up a hand to stop them, probably hoping he could handle this quietly. Big mistake. Miss Mitchell, he said with forced calm, you're clearly confused. This isn't the time or place for whatever concerns you have. Really? I pulled out the flash drive. Because I think right now, with all these witnesses and cameras, is exactly the right time to talk about how you've been systematically stealing intellectual property from your employees for over a decade. And what happens to those employees when they try to stop you? A murmur ran through the audience. Cameras swiveled toward the stage. David's smile was frozen on his face. That's a very serious accusation, and completely baseless. This woman is a disgruntled former employee who never even completed her first week. My name is Sarah Mitchell, I said to the audience, ignoring him. 3 days ago, I was hired as Director of Innovation at TechVision Labs. On my first day, I discovered what happened to the woman who had my job before me. Her name was Jessica Palmer. She went missing 7 months ago, but before she disappeared, she had developed a revolutionary telehealth platform, a platform that TechVision Labs then patented under their own name. I held up my phone, displaying Jessica's photo on the large screen behind us. This is Jessica. She was 29 years old. She loved hiking and her golden retriever, and when she threatened to expose TechVision's theft, she vanished. The police called it suspicious but could find no evidence. That's because the evidence was being controlled by someone with the power to make it disappear. More murmurs. David tried to speak, but I talked over him. Jessica wasn't the first. Michael Brennan in 2018, supposedly a suicide. Amanda Torres in 2019, suspicious car accident. Thomas Palmer in 2012, house fire. I advanced slides on the screen, showing faces, names, lives cut short. 7 people total. 7 brilliant innovators who joined TechVision Labs, had their work stolen, and ended up dead or missing when they tried to fight back. The murmurs were growing louder. Press was rushing toward the stage. David's face had gone from white to red. "This is slander," he shouted. "Security, remove these women immediately." But Margaret stepped forward. "My name is Margaret Palmer. Jessica Palmer was my daughter. Thomas Palmer was my son. This man and his company took both my children from me." Her voice rang with grief and fury. "I've spent 6 years gathering evidence. Everything is on this drive. Patent applications stolen from employees, internal memos about problem employees who needed to be handled, and the person coordinating all of it sits in the Office of Business Licensing at City Hall." She pulled out her own phone, displaying a document on the screen. Linda Crawford's memo about termination protocols. The audience gasped. "That's Linda Crawford," Margaret continued, Deputy Director of Business Licensing, who also happens to be David Crawford's mother. "She has access to every business filing in the city. She can alter documents, destroy evidence. And she's been using that power to help her son steal innovations and silence anyone who gets in the way." The room exploded into chaos. Press was shouting questions. People in the audience were on their phones. Security didn't know what to do. And David Crawford stood frozen, his perfect facade finally cracking. That's when I saw her. A woman in an expensive navy suit, pushing through the crowd toward the stage. She was about 60, with David's same cold blue eyes. Linda Crawford. "This is absurd," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. She had that authoritative tone that made people want to believe her. "These women are clearly disturbed, making wild accusations against respected institutions. David, call the police. Have them arrested for harassment and defamation." "Good idea," I said. "Let's call the police. And while we're at it, let's have them examine these." I held up the flash drive again. 6 years of documentation, patent theft, email trails, internal memos signed by you, Linda, directing the handling of employees who threatened to expose the fraud. And something else interesting, correspondence with the medical examiner's office. "Seems like you had some influence over how certain deaths were classified." Linda's face went rigid. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Then you won't mind if we share all of this with the FBI," Margaret said. She looked at the press. "Everything we've shown you today is copied and backed up in multiple locations. We're releasing all of it to law enforcement and the media. The truth is coming out whether you like it or not." For just a second, I saw real fear flash across Linda Crawford's face. Then she turned and tried to walk off the stage. But people in the audience were blocking her way. Some of them were standing up, and I realized with shock that I recognized a few faces. The sister of Michael Brennan, Amanda Torres's parents, other families Margaret had contacted. "My brother trusted you," someone shouted from the audience. "You killed my daughter," another voice cried. The Seattle police were there within minutes, probably called by the venue security. But they weren't arresting Margaret and me. They were carefully extracting David and Linda Crawford from the stage, away from the angry crowd. Within an hour, FBI agents had arrived to take custody of our evidence. Within 24 hours, both Crawfords were in custody. The investigation that followed made national news. It turned out the Innovation Archive contained evidence of 12 cases of patent theft spanning 15 years. Not all ended in death, but 7 did. Jessica Palmer's body was eventually found in a remote area east of the city, confirming what we all feared. The evidence trail led directly to Linda Crawford, who'd used her position at City Hall not just to alter business records but to influence police investigations and even medical examiner reports. David Crawford was charged with fraud, conspiracy, and murder. His mother faced even more charges, including obstruction of justice and abuse of public office. The trials took 2 years. I testified 3 times. It was exhausting and traumatic, and sometimes I wondered if it was worth it. But then I'd think about Jessica's smile in that photo, about Thomas Palmer's innovative spirit, about all the dreams that had been stolen, and I knew we'd done the right thing. They were both convicted. David got 30 years. Linda got 45. Tech Vision Labs declared bankruptcy. The building that had once seemed so impressive now sits empty, a shell. As for me, I eventually launched Care Connect on my own. It took 3 more years of working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, believing in myself when it felt impossible. But last month, we hit our 1,000,000th user. Families all over the country using my app to coordinate care for their elderly loved ones. My innovation, my name, my success. Margaret and I still talk every week. She came to the Care Connect launch party. We toasted to Jessica, to Thomas, to everyone who didn't get to see their dreams realized. She tells me she can finally sleep at night. That knowing justice was served has given her a kind of peace she didn't think possible. I learned something from all this. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it wears an expensive suit and a warm smile. Sometimes it sits in government offices and calls itself public service. The scariest villains are the ones with power and respectability, because they can make you doubt your own eyes. But I also learned that truth has a way of surviving, even when it's buried in basement servers and hidden behind corporate lawyers. Even when the people trying to expose it end up dead, the truth waits. And sometimes, if you're brave enough and angry enough and you refuse to give up, you can drag it into the light. If any of you are out there right now, facing something that seems too big to fight, remember this: you are not alone. Document everything. Find your allies. And when the moment comes, stand up and speak your truth as loudly as you can. The powerful count on our silence. Don't give them that gift. I'm Martha, and this is my story. Or rather, Sarah's story. If it touched you, hit that like button. If you know someone who needs to hear it, share it. And please, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Your support keeps these stories alive. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and never stop fighting for the truth.